This is a fan-fiction story about the Goblin King and his horde, as well as a brand new, never-before-seen troop known as a Reptilian. The Reptilian is a fan-made concept done by Vovson. To see its stats and what it does, check out my most recent video or head over to Vov's channel. Vov also reached out to me asking me to make a story on this troop, and despite this not being an actual troop within the game, it does help to explain the theoretical origin of the goblins, the minions, the Goblin Horde, and the Goblin King. I hope you guys enjoy this story, as Vov and I both put a lot of time into creating this troop and the story. So anyways, let's get into this story. Since the beginning of Clash of Clans, there has been a group of goblins living peacefully in the forest close to the village. For many generations, they lived alongside a group known as the Reptilians. Together, they made a pretty good team, since the Reptilians were skilled hunters and the goblins were extremely good at gathering edible plants. They were an ideal hunter-gatherer tribe. So as time went on, generations passed, and it came to a point where the head chief of the goblin tribe had peacefully passed away, and a new chief named Gollum stepped up to take his place, and his very first order of business was to be referred to as king from now on. At first, no one really bothered too much about it since it didn't really affect anyone, but slowly as time went on, the Goblin King began getting more and more strict, and demanding more and more. He became obsessed by being king, and started craving riches of all kinds to prove his power. To satisfy his craving, he began ordering his goblins to steal and bring him gold and other valuable resources. And the king kept getting more and more corrupt. He kept demanding more and more as time went on, and his goblins started to become corrupt as well, following his orders for so long that they were starting to become greedy just like him. As all of this was happening, the Reptilians noticed the corruption within the goblin tribe, so they had collectively decided to distance themselves from them. The group of Reptilians had hiked all the way to the other side of the island, and once they set up their little camp, after the long hike, they all were pooped, so they went to sleep for the night. Then the next day when they woke up to go hunting for their food, they came across a tiny lake full of black liquid. One of the Reptilians told everyone, "I know what this is. I remember eavesdropping on the Clash of Clans village and overheard the Barbarian King talking about how some black liquid turned him into an immortal Barbarian King." So all of the Reptilians thought that if they drank it as well, they would become immortal just like him. However, what they didn't hear is that there needs to be an electrical impulse in order to fully complete the transformation. So without knowing that, the group of Reptilians began to drink all of the dark elixir from the tiny lake. Unfortunately, the lake was so small that not all of the Reptilians could get some dark elixir to drink. Only about half of them did. So once they drained the entire lake, they all got out. Then, about half the Reptilians began to transform. Tiny little bulges began to protrude from their shoulders, and their entire bodies began to morph into a slightly different form. Then finally, when the transformations had finished, there was a brand new flying Reptilian that was standing before the rest of the regular Reptilians. These new flying troops became so dependent on the dark elixir that they couldn't go very long without having any. And the only place that they could find any more dispensable dark elixir was at the Clash of Clans village. So when they got to the village, the chief offered them a deal. He would give them between 6 to 12 drops of dark elixir, depending on how strong they were, and in exchange they would go do all of the village's bidding. So the flying Reptilians, who desperately needed the dark elixir, accepted the extremely low offer of dark elixir, and in return aided in attacks for the village chief. And since these flying Reptilians were doing all of the village's bidding, the villagers began to refer to them as minions. Then back in the forest, a new war was beginning to stir between the Goblin Horde and the Reptilian gang. A conflict that could change the course of history forever for the world of Clash. Find out what happens in the next part of the story, where we will find out all about what happened to the rest of the Reptilians, the Goblin King, and the rest of the single player missions. Stay tuned for that in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching my video. Make sure you leave a thumbs up on this video, as it did take quite a while to create this video, and if you did enjoy it, I would really appreciate all of the likes. Let's go ahead and see if we can reach 2,500 likes on this video. I know this video is a bit different than usual because it has a so-called made-up troop in it. Despite that, I think the story does still explain decently well the origin of like the goblins, the Goblin Horde, and the minions actually. And then in the next story, I will go on to explain more about the Goblin King, how the start of the clash, like when you go through the tutorial, how that is all affected by the story in my theoretical conspiracy. Anyways, I hope you guys did enjoy that. If you did, like I said, make sure you drop a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Part 2 will be coming out very soon, so if you are subscribed, turn on the notifications so you do not miss it. And also, if you want to learn more about this new troop concept done by Vovson, go ahead, head over to his channel or check out my most recent video. I give my personal opinions on what I think it would do, its special powers. It's definitely a unique troop that could be added into the game because it has some unique features that aren't already inside of Clash of Clans. And then you can also check out Vov's video where he'll probably have more animations and might talk about some different things than me. But anyways, that is going to be it for today's video. Happy New Year's, depending on when this video actually is released. Happy New Year if it has already passed. And anyways, I will see you guys all in the next video. Peace.
We can't be torn apart.